The crystalline transport pod hummed softly as it descended through the purple atmosphere of Kepler 442b. Inside, 8-year-old Tommy Martinez pressed his face against the translucent wall, watching alien spires pierce through lavender clouds. He had stopped crying 3 days ago when he realized the tall, silver beings with their elongated limbs and luminescent eyes weren't going to hurt him. Commander Vexthal studied the small creature through multifaceted eyes that shifted from amber to deep violet. The child possessed the standard bipedal configuration, but his skin lacked the characteristic blue-green tint of Kepler natives. Instead, it displayed an unusual peachy-brown pigmentation that fascinated the xenobiologist aboard their vessel. "Remarkable adaptation," Dr. Keth-Era murmured, her tentacles dancing over the scanning equipment. "This specimen shows incredible resilience. Most Kepler juveniles would have expired from shock by now, yet this one seems almost curious." Tommy had indeed grown curious. The aliens fed him strange, gelatinous substances that tasted surprisingly like his grandmother's apple pie. They kept him in a comfortable chamber with soft, moss-like bedding and walls that displayed moving pictures of various worlds. Sometimes he tried to communicate with them, pointing at the images and saying, "Earth," whenever blue-green planets appeared, but they seemed to interpret this as some form of juvenile babbling. The ship's AI, a vast consciousness called the collective mind, processed the child's vocalizations with growing confusion. The creature's language patterns didn't match any known Kepler dialects. Its phonetic structures seemed almost primitive, yet strangely sophisticated, like an ancient tongue that had evolved in isolation. "Perhaps it's from one of the outer settlements," suggested Navigator Zilmoth, adjusting the ship's trajectory toward the research station. "The frontier colonies often develop linguistic mutations." Commander Vexthal wasn't convinced. 3 solar cycles of exploration had taught him to recognize anomalies, and this child registered as the most significant discovery of their mission. The creature's DNA would fetch enormous compensation from the Intergalactic Research Consortium, especially given its apparent immunity to standard containment stress. Tommy, meanwhile, had begun to understand fragments of their clicking, whistling language. When they pointed at him and made a series of rapid clicks followed by a low hum, he knew they were discussing him. He tried to teach them English, speaking slowly and clearly, but they seemed to regard his efforts as entertaining primitive sounds. On the 4th day, as they approached the research station orbiting Kepler 442b, Tommy made a breakthrough. He managed to access the wall display controls by mimicking the hand gestures he'd observed. The aliens watched in amazement as the small creature navigated their advanced interface with intuitive understanding. "Impossible," breathed Dr. Keth-Era. "No Kepler juvenile possesses such technological aptitude. Their neural pathways don't develop complex reasoning until at least 15 solar cycles." Tommy pulled up a star map, his small fingers tracing patterns across the display. He searched desperately for something familiar, some configuration that might help him explain where he came from. Finally, he found it, a small yellow star in what the aliens marked as Sector 7G, labeled in their script as uninhabited system. He pointed frantically at the star, then at himself, repeating, "Earth, Earth, Earth." The aliens exchanged uncertain glances. "Dr. Keth-Era ran immediate scans of Sector 7G, her equipment revealing impossible readings. The third planet from that insignificant yellow star registered as teeming with life, billions of bipedal creatures matching the child's configuration. Commander Vexthal felt his respiratory systems falter. They had accidentally abducted a specimen from a previously unknown intelligent species. The implications were staggering. First contact protocols, intergalactic law, the entire framework of their civilization had specific procedures for such discoveries. "Emergency course change," he commanded, his voice harmonics betraying his shock. "We return the young one to Sector 7G immediately." Tommy smiled for the first time since his abduction, understanding somehow that he was going home. As the ship altered course toward Earth, he pressed his hand against the window, watching Kepler 442b shrink away, unaware that his accidental journey had just announced humanity's existence to the galaxy. The aliens had learned something that day, Sometimes the most extraordinary discoveries come in the smallest packages.